Are you ready for some football? What's up, guys? Welcome to the Specific Chiropractic show number 56. I'm your host, Dr. Mike Merkt, and on today's show, we're going to be talking about football. Okay, so it's pretty apparent that I was never involved in singing the intro to Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, or Thursday Night Football. But what we are going to talk about is something that has been in the news a little bit lately, mainly due to one case of it. What we're really talking about is CTE, and what that is that's the disease that a lot of former football players, boxers, action sports athletes and stuff like that are starting to get, and it's from multiple head traumas and multiple concussions going on. So the brain is encased in the skull, obviously, and with that it's protected with what's called cerebral spinal fluid, and that kind of allows a cushion in the brain and the skull. But how a concussion works is you get an impact so hard that the brain suddenly smashes up against the skull and it kind of goes back and it gets kind of a bruise there. And when we get multiples of those, multiple head traumas like a lot of these people have with CTE, suddenly that part of the brain kind of begins to die off, and people start to act differently, and their emotions are completely different, and a lot of their symptoms are stuff like suicidal tendencies and depression and big mood swings and not as much mental flexibility. It's about that. What I want to talk about is there was a study that recently came out, actually it came out last week, out of Boston University, and what it looked at is a lot of kids who start playing tackle football and high impact sports before the age of 12 are a lot more susceptible to injuries to their brain and small injuries to their brain. What's really interesting about this is, yes, there's definitely an increase in brain trauma and brain injury with kids that have this stuff going on. But at the same time, I work with a number of kids in my office that play football, and I work with a number of people who have suffered from head injuries and stuff like that. And what's always awesome to see is it's really cool to see their improvement. For people that have suffered from concussions and effects in that a long time, to see their improvement, not only in a pain aspect, maybe they're having headaches consistently, but also from a mood aspect with anxiety and depression and stuff like that. And with a lot of these kids, a lot of their parents realize that what we do here with the top two bones in the neck really allows us to kind of prevent some of the stuff that can happen. So what they're kind of seeing with a lot of concussion stuff is suddenly that cerebral spinal fluid, which really brings nutrients to the brain, flushes toxicities and stuff out of the brain. What they find is that when we have a misalignment of those top two bones in your neck, or what we call vertebral subluxation, that suddenly this cerebral spinal fluid isn't flowing back and forth as well as it should be, and it can kind of be getting caught up. And they see that with concussion people, they see it with people with Alzheimer's, people with MS as well. And they also say that when we do have a misalignment of those top two bones, suddenly the blood flow isn't where it's supposed to be either. And there's actually what's really cool is there's some functional MRI studies out there that show a change pre and post adjustments. So now the study that we're talking about did not talk about the link between playing football at a young age and developing chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE, in the future, only because the study is rather recent, and in order to determine if someone has that, the really only screening process right now is after death, which is kind of scary. And researchers are also saying that it's good that with a lot of the practices, they're trying to limit head-to-head contact, which is awesome. Obviously, the NFL has taken some measures to do that, but I still think this is something that a lot of you guys need to know about and realize that that if your child is playing football or any type of contact sport, that it's important to watch out for that. And they say during the ages of 9 and 12, those are really critical years in brain development. And it's one of those things to where I do see a number of kids that come in here who either play soccer, football, hockey, gymnastics, and stuff like that. And I think the parents have a really huge peace of mind that we're kind of taking preventative measures of them getting potentially pretty messed up in the future. Because like I mentioned earlier on, when these kids have a lot of these traumatic impacts and stuff, it does have some clinical problems later on in the future, whether that's anxiety and depression, mental flexibility, or stuff like that. With all that being said, thank you so much for watching. I know today's wasn't as fun and funny as others are, except for maybe my terrible attempt at shooting a paper football in the beginning. But I will fix that at the end here. As always, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. See you guys next time.